Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're digging into something a bit different, not just your average weather forecast.
That's right. We've got this industry-focused synopsis from GWT2Energy. It's really designed for, operational resilience. Think restaurants, hospitality.
Right, managing risk on the ground. So this isn't about whether you need an umbrella, it's about preventing operational failure points.
Exactly. It's business intelligence. We're looking at their 7-day, 14-day, and even 21-day projections. That takes us from November 11th right through to December 1st.
And the mission here.
Is to pull out the really crucial bits, the actionable stuff, what actually impacts things like inventory, customer traffic, and critically power reliability and your energy spend.
Okay, before we jump into the forecast itself, let's clarify the triggers. What does this report flag as a real operational red flag, not just, interesting weather?
Good question. It's very specific. They're watching for anything that really pushes your HVAC system hard, unexpectedly hard.
So like extreme demands.
Precisely. They define 3 thermal extremes. First, high heat, anything over 95 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay.
Second, significant cold lows dropping below 40 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a key threshold.
40 degrees, got it. And the third?
The third trigger is a big deviation from normal. We're talking 15 degrees Fahrenheit or more, hotter or colder than what's typical for that specific place and time.
Oh, so it's context dependent too, if any of those hit.
Yep, if the forecast hits any of those 3, it's a flag. Increased risk of equipment strain, potential failures, and definitely surging energy costs.
Having those clear thresholds must make planning much more concrete.
Okay, let's get into it. The immediate picture, November 11th to the 17th. What's the big story operationally in this first week?
Well, what jumps out immediately is a real split. On one side, things look relatively calm storm-wise.
Okay, good news first. Coastal supply chains, tropical threats.
Minimal. The report says only about a 10% chance of anything forming, and basically zero projected impact on the U.S. mainland in these 7 days.
And severe weather on land, tornadoes, also quite low risk, maybe a 5 to 10% chance in some very localized spots in the southeast. Think Atlanta, maybe Nashville. So yeah, need to be aware, but it's not looking like widespread disruption from wind or major storms.
Okay, so if storms aren't the main concern, that leaves temperature. Are we easing gently into winter here?
Not exactly, especially if you have operations anywhere in the northern states. The biggest factor, hands down, is the arrival of some serious chills, quickly.
How serious are we talking?
The report flags a 50% likelihood of lows dipping below that critical 40-degree operational floor in the north.
50%. That's significant. That's half your northern locations potentially hitting that trigger.
It is, and it's not just hitting 39 degrees. We're talking about major deviations from normal temperatures, like minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit below what's typical.
Minus 10. Wow. Where are they seeing that?
They give examples like Chicago, Boston. This isn't just a cool morning. This signals that heating systems are going to have to work hard right out of the gate.
That makes me think. It's not just about the energy bill then, is it? If systems are pushed to max capacity this early.
That's a really important point. The report focuses on HVAC requirements, but the implication for an ops manager is definitely broader. It signals an immediate heating surge.
Which could mean stress on boilers, furnaces, even things like door seals suddenly matter a lot more for costs and comfort.
Exactly. And the report stresses that during this first week, there isn't a corresponding heat problem in the south. No risk of hitting that 95-degree mark or having major positive deviations there.
So the clear headache for week 1 is cold in the north, managing that sudden demand.
Definitely. Preventing the cold from causing operational hiccups up north is the primary focus for November 11th to 17th.
Okay, so the north is under immediate pressure. What happens as we look out a bit further? Let's move to the midterm, the 14-day forecast running through November 24th. This is often where things get more complex regionally, right?
Absolutely. You really start to see the north and south diverge here. The north kind of doubles down on the cold, while the south starts warming up, creating a tricky contrast.
Interesting. Before we get into the temperatures, quick check. Tropical and tornado risks still low.
Yep, they stay pretty quiet. Tropical odds tick up just slightly, maybe 15%, but the chance of anything actually affecting the U.S. is still negligible, less than 5%. Maybe some awareness needed along the Florida coast, but that's it.
And tornadoes.
Similar story. Scattered, low probability events, maybe 10% chance in parts of the central and southeast U.S. Think Dallas or Memphis areas. Still just localized awareness, not a major operational threat profile.
Okay, good. So let's focus on that temperature split. That sounds like a real challenge for any operation with a national footprint. What are these opposing forces?
So first, the northern cold actually gets worse. That 50% likelihood of lows under 40 degrees Fahrenheit, that stays. But the deviation from normal deepens.
Deeper than -10.
Potentially, yeah. They mentioned Minneapolis as an example, possibly seeing spots hitting minus 15 degrees Fahrenheit below normal.
-15. Okay, that really elevates the heating demand forecast. That's sustained high demand territory.
But absolutely critical levels. You're not just reacting, you're planning for continuous heavy heating load.
So while the north is dealing with potentially 15 degrees below normal, what's happening down south?
Meanwhile, the South starts experiencing sustained above normal temperatures. We're talking a 40 to 50% likelihood.
Above normal by how much?
Cities like Miami are cited as potentially seeing plus 10 degrees Fahrenheit anomalies.
Wow. Okay, so you've got one part of the country fighting deep cold and another part dealing with unseasonable warmth. That sounds complicated.
It's an operational tangle for sure,
Yeah,
especially for anything temperature sensitive like inventory.
right. How does the report suggest managers handle that? Preserving inventory must get really complex.
It does. Think about refrigerated transport staging food. It gets tricky. The report implies you need to guard against two opposite risks simultaneously.
How so?
In the north, you're worried about the cold potentially impacting cold storage, maybe even pipe risks if it gets extreme. But in the south, with that unexpected warmth, you might worry about spoilage, especially near hot kitchens or loading docks.
So a standard approach to your cold chain just won't cut it during this period.
Exactly. It demands much tighter coordination, maybe adjusting delivery routes, more frequent temperature checks on trucks, because the conditions outside vary so dramatically across the country.
That definitely requires some high-level planning.
Hmm.
Okay, let's pull back for the longer view, the 21-day forecast, taking us right up to December 1st. What's the main takeaway as we head towards the end of November?
The big picture becomes pretty clear. That initial cold shock we saw in week 1, it doesn't just stick around, it escalates and spreads. It becomes the dominant theme.
Confirming that northern heating demand is the main event for the whole 3 weeks.
That's the overriding conclusion, yes.
And I assume those other risks, tropical and tornado, are really winding down by then.
Pretty much. The tropical season is officially ending. The report gives maybe a lingering 20% chance of some activity out in the Atlantic, but the U.S. impact risk stays very low, maybe 10%, possibly affecting Gulf Coast areas like Houston.
Tornadoes.
Also minimal, maybe 15% chance in some parts of the plains, like near Oklahoma City, but again, very localized. The real operational focus remains squarely on temperature.
So tell us more about this widespread northern cold in the 21-day view. Is it still just the northernmost tier, or is it broader?
Oh, it's definitely broader by this point. The outlook shows these below normal cooling trends dominating 50 to 60% of the north. It's not just a few cities. It's a major operational reality across a huge part of your northern footprint.
And the intensity. Is it still holding at those significant negative anomalies?
Yes, we're still looking at significant deviations, that minus 10 to minus 15 degrees Fahrenheit range below normal, and widespread lows dropping below that 40-degree mark.
A specific example.
They use New York as a prime example of where this deep, persistent cold really settles in. It basically guarantees high-demand heating right into the start of December.
Okay, so let's synthesize this. We've got the initial shock in week 1, then that tricky north-south split intensifying in week 2, and finally this widespread, deep cold solidifying across the north by week 3. What's the single biggest operational headache this GWT2Energy report highlights for restaurants over this whole period?
It really boils down to that persistent, intensifying, and spreading northern cold front. That's the main story.
Even with the southern warmth complicating things for a bit.
Right. The southern warmth creates logistical issues, yes, but it looks more temporary according to this forecast. The deep cold in the north is what drives the significant sustained heating surges and the associated energy costs from November 11th right through December 1st.
So the core challenge for you, the manager listening, is getting a handle on the budget impact of that continuous high-load energy demand across potentially hundreds of locations.
Precisely. It's managing those ramifications.
That progression really clarifies the risk. It confirms that optimizing energy use around heating is absolutely paramount for the next few weeks. For you, the listener, needing to boost resilience and manage costs, knowing this cold front isn't just arriving, but escalating lets you make proactive decisions.
And that ties directly into the report's practical advice. It emphasizes integrating monitoring specifically to track these advancing cold fronts and the heating surges they cause.
It's about prediction, not just reaction.
Exactly. Understanding the cold is intensifying means you can budget not just for higher bills, but maybe even schedule preventative maintenance before equipment fails under that prolonged distress.
Which leads to a bigger question, really, building on this. If these kinds of anomalies, minus 15 degrees, widespread early colds, become more regular, part of a new pattern,
Mhm.
then are these heating surges still just an operational blip you manage each year? Or do they become a capital expenditure issue? Does it force you to think about bigger investment system upgrades, better insulation to fundamentally change your energy use long term?
That's the strategic question, isn't it? Moving from tactical response to long-term adaptation.
Something to definitely mull over as you plan your resilience efforts
Yeah.
for the weeks ahead.